Shivam, please ask your friends to join.
Okay.
Shivam, are you back? Shivam, are you back?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's start. Okay. Meantime, let your friends join. We'll start. So, if you remember in the last lecture, before last lecture, we had started with constructors and your methods. Okay. So we were, before starting constructors, we explored methods, that how to create methods in Java. Okay, there we learned that there are two types of methods. One is um, user-defined method, and one is your inbuilt method. Okay, and then we found that again this method can be of various types depending upon their prototype, integer, void, etc., etc. And also depending upon modifiers, their accessibility can be limited. For example, you can have methods of public type, private type. Okay, you can also define methods and variables. In last lecture we studied static members, if you remember. Okay, static members. So static members can be your variables, static members can be your methods. Okay, so again your static members in the last lecture we studied is of two type. One is your inbuilt, for example the main method, which is the static, and you can also, user can also declare or create their on static members. If we saw the difference between the static and the non-static members, if it's in static member, you need not create an object of the class. However, the class itself can execute the static variables or static methods. We wrote a program for that, if you remember. Okay, if you've taken a screenshot, okay, we made some changes in the already written program. I showed you if I'll do static here, then this will happen. If it's non-static, we do not, we need to create an object. Okay, so and after that, after member methods. Okay, member methods, we explore different variations or types of member methods. And post that, in member variables also, we've seen that variables are of three types: local, class, and your local class and your static members. Okay, the accessibility can again be restricted with various types of access modifiers. For example, you can have your private, protected, public, or the default. Depending upon this, you can restrict the accessibility of variables or methods. After we finished exploring members, that is a very in terms of your variables, we started exploring a special type of member, that was your constructors. We found that constructor is very special because constructor bears the name as that of the class, and also it is used to instantiate the moment an object is created, and we can use it to read the arguments while in the while in its creation, while an object is created, that time only we can use it to read the arguments, okay, and it will be your compile time arguments, okay. And then after that, in the last lecture, we studied overloading, if you remember, okay. We studied overloading, and in overloading I taught you constructor overloading, wherein we saw that the constructor method can also be overloaded, okay. If it's overloaded, uh, then we can have the constructor with multiple types of arguments or different size of arguments. For example, one constructor can read one argument, the other constructor can read two arguments. Now that is the difference, okay. You can change overload the constructor with respect to the size of the arguments or the numbers of arguments. Or if you have more than one constructor with equal number of arguments, in that case you can overload them with the type of arguments they are reading. For example, if constructor 1 is reading two arguments of type integer, constructor 2 must be reading other than integer, for example, let us say float, okay. So that is how we studied, and we've also written one program to learn the constructor overloading, okay. So post that, we studied method overloading. Again, method overloading, how is it different from the constructor overloading? Now in constructor overloading, the name of the constructor is same as that of the class. In method overloading, it is not, it isn't, okay. The only difference is the method is now the user defined method. Again, the type can be, how do we differentiate while executing the program between the different types of the constructor? By the parameter types and the number of parameters. For that, again, we saw a program, okay. With the help of a program, we studied the method overloading, okay. And we also found that method overloading is possible within a class के अंदर ही method overloading होती है, class दो क्लासों के बीच में method overloading नहीं होती है, okay. That is what we explored. We executed a program, we wrote a program on that and explained to you. After that, I compared constructor overloading with the method overloading, and I also highlighted you the difference between constructor overloading and the method overloading. If you want to go for runtime value reading from the users performing overloading, then you must go for method overloading. If you have compile time values for the same type of declaration, then you can go for constructor overloading, okay. So with this much, we had concluded the last lecture, and I told you in the last lecture, we will be doing inheritance in the next lecture. So do you have any queries, or can I proceed? If you have any doubts from the lectures that we have done, from the topics that we have done so far, you write down the topic in the chat box. If I can proceed, you please write down proceed in the chat box so that I can quickly pick up with the topic of the day. This is the summary of what we have studied so far, okay. And also I had asked you, I had given you aims, okay. Aim मैंने आपको दिया था, and I had asked you कि इस aim के लिए आपको method overloading, constructor overloading करनी है, and by next coming Monday or Tuesday you will have to submit your lab file, okay. Class, please write in the chat box. Do you have any queries, or can I proceed? If I can proceed, please write down yes. Difference between constructor overloading and method overloading. Anita, I just mentioned right now, constructor overloading or method overloading is same. The only difference is the name of the constructor is the name of the class. However, method is the user defined methods. Okay, for example, you can see here, if you have a class name student, if you have a class name student, then your constructor will be stu only. Your constructor will be stu only. But if you are declaring, again, now if you have a class named student, but the name of the method would be, if you want to create a method, the name of the method will not be stu here, okay. The name of the method will be something different. It will not have any prototype here, but it will have a prototype here. For example, void and get. So this is the difference between constructor and method overloading. The only difference is the name of the class will be the name of the method in case of constructor. The name of the method will not be the name of the class here. Okay, baki yahan pe number of size, numbers, everything is same. Okay, Rizwana, I think it's Anita. Okay, is it clear, Anita? राम रे मैम स्विच केस वाला प्रोग्राम नहीं रन हो रहा है. राम यू हैव टू डू इट. इट्स वेरी बेसिक वन. आपको ये कुछ खास नहीं है स्विच वाला. यू हैव बीन डूइंग सिंस बैचलर्स. ओके, यू कैन कंसल्ट विद योर फ्रेंड्स एंड यू कैन डू इट. इट्स वेरी सिंपल. Anita, okay. Okay, so I think we are done. We have no more questions. Ram, I think I've got your answer. स्विच वाले में तो अभी आप और बैचलर्स में होते या फिर फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर का सी प्रोग्राम कर रहे होते तो आई वुड हैव आस्क्ड यू ओके. और या तो फिर आपका कुछ जावा रिलेटेड एरर होता देन आई आल्सो आई वुड हैव सेड ओके आई विल टीच यू. ओके, सो दिस इज नॉट समथिंग रिलेटेड टू जावा. दिस इज वेरी बेसिक प्रोग्रामिंग. You can consult with your friends and get out of the error. Okay, you can sort out your error. So now I'm starting with the class. Okay, so class today is again a very important class. Okay, so today's lecture we are going to study inheritance. Inheritance. We will be studying inheritance. Okay, if you remember, then we have studied inheritance as a feature of OOP. We have studied inheritance as a feature of object-oriented program. I had explained to you inheritance there. It is a property, it is a feature of inheriting the properties. For example, Ram can inherit the properties of his parents. I can inherit the properties of my parents. For example, properties with respect to asset and also my biological properties from my parents. Okay, so the property inheritance का मतलब वही है to inherit the properties. Okay, and it is not a feature provided by Java. ये Java का specific feature नहीं है, but it is a common feature provided by OOP. Whatever language is it, if it is an OOP based language, you'll have inheritance there. Okay, so now why do we need inheritance? For that also I've already answered the question when we were studying the properties, features of OOP. For code reusability. For code reusability, we do the inheritance. Okay, for example, you have developed let us say you run a company, you have developed a online admission system for Delhi University. Now you want to develop an online admission. The same company has got the tender to develop the software for now Sikkim University. Now whatever code is there for Delhi University that can be used for Sikkim University with some minute changes in the design and in the flow, so that the copyright violation is not there. But because it is admission system, the same can be used with some minute changes. Okay, so that is called as your code reusability. And also, if you are doing some employee management system, in that case it will have employee name, employee details, date of birth, salary, etc, etc. Now if you want to do bank management system, then this class which takes the details of the employee of the university, this class can be used for banking management system, because even bank will have employees. So obviously university we have many various other classes. We will not be using it because it is specific to university, but this code is there for employee, this block. So this can be used directly into the banking management system. We can inherit this entire code from here. So that is again called as code reusability, and for that we do the inheritance. Now inheritance is of many types. Okay, OOP supports various types of inheritance. Now you need to pay attention to every word I say here. Okay, inheritance is of various types provided by OOP. OOP बहुत सारी inheritance provide करता है, लेकिन उनमें से कौन से जावा में है कौन से नहीं है, we will see now. Okay, so the first type of inheritance provided by OOP is your single level inheritance. Single level inheritance. It's very simple. You have a base class here. Let us say this is your base class. From the base class, there is one derived class B. Okay, base class, there is a derived class. That means there is only one class that is inheriting the property of the above class. This is called as single level inheritance. Now this has various names. For example, it can be called as base class. Sometimes it is called as parent class. Okay, some base class, parent class, yes, base and parent class. Here it can be called as child class or derived class. Derived class because the property of B has been derived from A. Base class because here we are defining the basic rules. Okay, and now because this is the basic one, it is called as parent because it has the properties that is being inherited by the child. That is why it is called as parent. This is called as child. Okay, so this is your single level inheritance. Now we have hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance. Okay, here again we will have one base or parent class. Here again, see here clearly. Here again we have one and only one base or parent class, but we can have multiple classes deriving the properties. Okay, ये एक base class से we can have multiple classes deriving the properties. This is called as your hierarchical. Okay, one base class and multiple child class. This is called as hierarchical. Okay, the third one is your multi-level inheritance. Multi-level inheritance is we have one base class, let us say A, and there is a child class here. B is inheriting the property of A. Again, see here, this is the base class, this is the derived class. Again, for B is a base class for C. Let us say I have here C. So now C is a child class. Okay, for C, which one is the parent class? B. B is the derived class for which one? A. So in this case, multi-level, B is both the parent and also the child. Parent for C, child for A. If you have in single level inheritance, if you will keep on adding the base derived classes as the parent, this is your multi-level inheritance. Okay, the fourth is your multiple inheritance. Inheritances. Remember, right now I'm teaching you the inheritance by OOP, not by Java. Okay, inheritance by OOP, not by Java. So here I have one base class. Let us say I have more than one base class, at least one base class, and there is a child class, let us say C, that is inheriting the property of both the base class. This is called as your multiple inheritance, wherein we have multiple base class. We have multiple base class and we have one child that is inheriting the property of both the parents or more than one parent. Okay, it is called as your multiple inheritance. Okay, so these are the four types of inheritance by by OOP, by OOP, object oriented programming. So now inheritance in Java, let us say inheritance in Java. Java supports single level inheritance. Okay, that means in Java we have single level inheritance. Java supports hierarchical inheritance. Java supports multi-level inheritance, but Java does not support multiple inheritance. From OOP, okay, inheritance by OOP, Java has taken all the three types of inheritance, but not the multiple inheritance. So what is the difference? If you see here, in this case, in the single level inheritance, we have only one base class. Sorry, a child is inheriting property from only one base class. See here, again in hierarchical inheritance, all the childs are inheriting property from only one and only one base class. Again, in multi-level inheritance, this child is inheriting property from only one parent class. Again, this child is inheriting property from only one base class. That means till here, all the child has one and only one parent. But in multiple inheritance, one child has multiple in more than one, or let us not write two, let us say more than one parents. So in Java, this is not recognized. It creates some random behavior in the program. Earlier than Java, the program used to misbehave. Okay, so the handling multiple inheritance is quite a tough job in programming world. So this was eliminated in Java, but obviously there will be cases wherein a child needs to have more than one parent. There will be situation, there will be projects wherein we may need, there are two different projects and a third project comes in, and now in third project we want to inherit the property from both the projects. So in this case we need multiple parents. Okay, so for that Java has come up with a solution called as Java has for multiple, it does not supports directly like this, it supports indirectly, and the name or the technique is called as interface. Now we have already given sessional 1. Can you tell me where did you see this interface? We have talked about this interface before. I've mentioned this interface before. So can you tell me where did you see this interface before in Java? So now to implement multiple inheritance in Java, we use interface. Okay. So tell me, where have you seen this interface before quickly? Anyone? Do you recall it or not? If you recall it, write down. If not, write down very quickly in the chat box. No. So without wasting time, we can move ahead. Class, am I audible? No. Okay. Subhash, thank you. Others? एक सेशनल हो चुका है. Anita, Ram, Shivam, anyone? Yes or no? Ram, no. Okay. So if that means आपने अपनी पढ़ाई अच्छे से नहीं की थी for your sessional 1. If you remember, under data types, I told you there were two, primitive and non-primitive. Under non-primitive, there were three. Okay, so the third one was your interfaces. The third type of data type, एक तो array था, एक क्या था? I forgot what. I'm not able to recall. एक कुछ था, एक तो आपका arrays था, और आपका third one था interface. It's a non-primitive data type. So a non-primitive data type was proposed to implement the concept of multiple inheritance in Java. Okay, so now These are the four different types of inheritance by OP. Now in the exam, you need to read the questions carefully. If you are asked inheritance by OP, you will mention all four. If you are asked inheritance by Java, you will mention these three. And for the fourth, you have to say multiple inheritance is not there. You'll explain multiple inheritance, but you'll say it is not there in Java. So to implement it, Java has proposed a technique of non-primitive data type, and that is your interface. Okay. So we'll study all these three in today's lecture. Interface we will discuss in a different lecture, क्योंकि इंटरफेस के लिए फिर से अलग से लेक्चर चाहिए पूरा उसके लिए. Okay, so this is all about your inheritance. So now how do we perform inheritance, okay, in Java programming? For that, we perform inheritance in Java programming by, if I have class A, okay, this is your class A. So now I have, let us say, class B. So now class B has some properties that I want in class C. So what I do, first I create class C. So now if I want to import the property of class B in class C, first I create class C, and then to extend the property of B, what I do is I write the keyword extends B. So now whatever is there in B, whatever variable methods, whatever is there in B, all the properties will be imported in C. So now you have not written B extends A. So that means the property of A is not inherited either in B or in C. Now, if C wants to import the property, this is called as a single level inheritance, because we have performed only one level of inheritance. Now, if you will do here extends A. So now this is multi-level inheritance. B is the base class of A. Okay, A is the parent class, B is the base class. Here, B is the parent class, C is the base class. Okay, so this is your multi-level inheritance. And if only this much, then this is your single level inheritance. Okay, and also if you will do, instead of this one, let us say this one is here. Okay, this one is here. Now if I'll do this one here, extends A, that means here I have only one parent, that is A, but I have multiple classes, child classes, importing the property of A. So now this is your hierarchical inheritance. I hope it's clear. The syntax of single level, multi-level, and hierarchical. I'll show you now. I'll write code only for one. The rest, the multi-level and hierarchical, आपको lab में खुद से करना है. Interface or multiple, I'll do it again. Okay. So this is the syntax. This is the syntax. So now with syntax and with the skeleton code is different. What is inheritance and different types of inheritance clear to you all? If any doubt, write in the chat box. If it's clear, write down clear. Okay, thank you, Anita. Subhash, thank you. Ram, thank you. Rashmi, okay. Thank you, Rashmi. Krishna, okay. शिवम, राम का हो गया, हाँ राम का हो गया. शिवम, चांदनी, शिवांगी, शिवम, चांदनी, शिवांगी. Is it clear? Shivam, Chandni, Shivangi.
Ma'am, clear.
Thank you, Chandni. Shivangi. If you have any doubt, I'm going back to writing the codes, okay? So if you have any doubt, please write in the chat box or unmute yourself and you may ask the queries, okay? So class, let us do now inheritance के लिए code. How do we perform inheritance in Java? Okay. Okay, so let us create a class. If I think it's clear. Okay, so I'm going to name this class as box, class box. I have opened this class. Okay, wherever you'll have confusion, stop me then and there and ask me a query. Okay, not by the end. So let us declare two variables, integer length and integer breadth. Okay, so I've finished the declaration part. So let me create one constructor. Okay, the name of the constructor is, let us say box. So let the constructor box read two variables, integer x and integer y. Okay, so now I'm assigning to length value x. I'm assigning to breadth the value y. Okay, I hope it is clear till here. It's no rocket science till here. We have been doing this. Okay, so now the purpose of this program is to calculate the area of this one. Okay, area of different types of figure. Let us say rectangle, circle, cube, etc. We want to calculate that. So for that, in one class, we have declared and initialized the variables that will read the length and breadth. Okay, now we'll declare one more method. We'll declare a method to calculate the area of this figure. Okay, so whatever figure you mention, we want to return the length and breadth of it. Okay, length into breadth. We are done. Okay, so we have now a method, one constructor or one method, special method named constructor to initialize the values, one method to return the area. Okay, to return the area. So now इसको यहीं पे छोड़ देते हैं. Okay, so now let me create one more one. Okay, so now this one I have a class. So let me do one more class here. We are doing inheritance. Okay, I'll teach you single level inheritance. Then I'll give you the aim for multi-level inheritance and your hierarchical inheritance. Okay, so now let us create a class name. Okay, let us create a class named cube. Okay, so that we can return the area of the cube. Okay, so let this, now this cube class, एक फिगर क्यूब के कितने साइड्स होते हैं? 3 sides, length, width and breadth. So instead of doing all this here, declaring the variables, initializing the variables in the constructor, returning the length into area, instead of doing all this part, this declaration part, why not perform code reusability? If we will perform code reusability, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 lines of codes can be excluded. Okay, so let us perform, let us bring length and breadth from here, and for this cube, the third side, let us declare only the third side here. Okay, so for that, we know to inherit the property, what do? We perform inheritance. How do we perform inheritance? We perform inheritance by extends. Okay, so we have done extends. Declaration is in the class box. So we extend the property of class box here. So we open class box. See here carefully now. Now I'm going to perform inheritance. Okay, so I declare only height, the third dimension for your cube. Okay, I'm declaring only the third dimension for the cube now. Okay, integer height. Now I declare the constructor here, just like here. Okay, yes, C has to be capital because my class name is capital. Cube. Here, I have not declared integer length and breadth. I have declared only height. But in this constructor, now I'll pass all the three variables. I can do it directly, integer y, x, z. Okay. Now, in inheritance, again pay attention. There are a few lines where you need to pay attention. This one, here, again now. So now, length and breadth. Okay, I have imported this one in this class. But how do I bring this to here? How do I mention? Because this class may have various variables and methods. We need not want to import everything. So which are the variables or methods that we want from class box to be inherited here? For that, we use a keyword. Okay, we use a keyword, and that keyword is super. So with the help of super, we perform this initialization for length and breadth. We did not write length is equals to x, breadth is equals to y. However, if I write super x comma y, this initialization for x and y with length and breadth is imported from the previous class in this current class. So with the super x and y, I'm done. Okay, I need to only initialize, only initialize for my height. I hope I'm going slow, and I hope I'm able to clear every single step. Okay, here with super, I have, if it was not inheritance, if it was not there, then I again for cube, I again had to do length, breadth. हमने ये example पहले किया है constructor में, where we had to rewrite everything. But here we are not rewriting, not declaring everything again. So now we are saving the execution time as well. Here, if length and breadth was there, then the parsing of the integer had to be done 3 times, for length, for breadth, and then for height. Initialization, memory allocation, everything had to be done thrice, for this one and for this one segregatedly, differently. But now in this case, because we are directly inheriting the property, we are skipping and saving so much of space, so much of time, and also the lines of code. So it is not only about decreasing the lines of code, but the inheritance is also about making the code lightweight. Okay, lightweight. So I hope I'm trying being able to go slow and make it clear. Okay, so we know that in the world of mathematics, when we have only 3 sides, we call it area. When we have lesser than 3 dimensions, we call it area, and when we have more than 2 dimensions, we call it volume. So let us give the name of the method as volume. So now let us calculate the volume of the into length into breadth into width no height. Okay, height. See here in this class I've not mentioned length and breadth, yet I'm being able to directly use length and breadth in this class by the property of inheritance. Okay, so I close it now. Okay, I close it now. I close my class. So I have till here. Okay, I'm sorry, I should have one more brace here. Nobody reminded me. This class ends here, no? So I should have put one more brace here. And there should be one more brace here too. Okay. Plus, give me 1 minute. Sorry, and thank you for waiting. So now let us execute this code. Okay, I have one class, I have extended class, here I have the basic declaration, here I have one more size, here I'm returning the area of only, you can say square or box could be a square. If it's square, x will be equals to y. If it's rectangle, x and y will be different. So with this one, we are calculating the area of both square and rectangle. Here we are calculating the area, volume of cube. So now let us create one more class to calculate, sorry, to let this code execute now. Okay, so let us execute this code now. Okay, okay. So now class, my favorite class name, class sample. Okay, so here I'm going to execute everything. So here I have string a. Please use the full form, not the shortcut. You obviously get an error if you will do so. We know that we need to create an object. Let us say cube C1 equals to new cube. Okay, cube C1 equals to new cube. See here for here reading the giving the passing the values. I have not used any methods. I've directly used the constructor. If you want to make it runtime, you in lab, you will obviously have to do the runtime. So you replace these box and cube with methods so that you can take runtime values. Okay, so this one is only for compile time. So this is for your practice. Okay. So this cube is taking three values. So let me write down 10, 14, 16. Okay, so 10, 14, 16. I have this cube name and 10, 14, 16 pass kar diya with the super x and y. Okay, so with the super x and y, this 10 and 14 will go here. This 10 and 14 will go here. Okay, so now I need to execute this integer area. Okay, so for that I have here int area. In I'm declaring this one will return length and breadth. Before returning, I want to store it somewhere. Okay, so for that I have declared one variable here. So equals to integer area1 equals to c1 dot the method area. Okay, this we have already done several times. That's why I'm not explaining. Still, if you're getting confused, what am I doing here? You can stop me right now and ask me. Okay. So now again, for area I have done, for volume I need to do again. So let me do integer vol1 equals to c1 dot volume, this one. So this one will get calculated. Okay, this one will be called volume, and this one will get calculated for 10, 14, 16, and then whatever is the value 10 into 14 into 16 will be stored in volume 1. From this 10, 14, 16 here with super x and y, 10 and 14 will go here. 10 and 14, 10 into 40. When this happens, area, this area will be called this area. Okay, and 10 into 14 will be stored in area.1. So now the last thing that is left is to print system.out.println area is area is area1. Okay, and I have system.out.println volume is vol vol 1. So this is it. We close the main function, we close the class. So this is how we have done single level inheritance, and we have executed this entire code. Okay. Now the output will be area is 10 into 14, 140 I think, 114. Okay, this will be our output. And volume is 10, 140, 16. I'm just writing some random value here. You calculate it and write down. Okay, 140 into 16, let us say it is 2000. So this is about inheritance, performing inheritance, the syntax for inheritance, etc. Okay, so if you have any doubt, write in the chat box. If you want me to leave that screen for a while, write chat box. Or if everything is done, I can proceed. Please write down here, proceed. Class, if it's clear, please write down clear so that I can proceed. If you have any doubt, unmute your mic and ask me the questions. Okay, everyone's clear now. Okay, so I'm going to erase that board, and those who have not taken the notes of this one, okay, I'm leaving it for like 10 seconds. Take a screenshot and save it. Okay, so now let me give you the aim for your lab. Okay, write a Java program to calculate the area of different geometrical shapes. Bracket, let's write down this square, cube, sphere, cylinder. इतना होना ही चाहिए. If you have few more, you may add. Okay, calculate it. Implementing the concept of single level, multi-level, and hierarchical inheritance. Okay, so class, from the topic that we just discussed, inheritance, and after that code, okay, program execution. This is the aim. Okay, this is the aim for the lab that you'll have to execute. Write a Java program to calculate the area of different geometrical shapes, square, circle, cube, sphere, cylinder, etc., implementing the concept of single level, multi-level, and hierarchical inheritance. Multiple have not given, because multiple, for that I need to teach you in interface, that we will do later. So have you taken this? Write in the chat box. Did you take the note of this aim for your next lab?
Yes,
Yes or no?
ma'am.
Right? Okay. Okay. So now let's move to the next topic. Okay. Now the next topic is something where students find it interesting. Some students find it is interesting. Some student gets confused. Okay, some student gets confused. After I teach the topic, and not usually after I teach the topic, but during the time of exam. अभी तो क्या करते हो आप लोग, सुनने के लिए सुन लेते हो, बाद में रियलाइज करते हो ओहो ये क्या हो गया. Overriding methods. Earlier class we studied overloading method. Earlier we studied before inheritance. Inheritance से पहले हमने क्या पढ़ा? Overloading methods. What does overloading means? Making whatever you consider in the world. If you are using the term overloading, that means you are making that particular thing do more than it is designated to do. For example, if it's a plus sign, okay, we use it for addition. But from this plus sign in Java, what are we doing? We are also assigning values. For example, if in A I have 1, now A I want to print, so what do I do in SOP? Plus A I write down. So I am overloading this particular operator here. Okay, so that is your overloading. Okay, so now overriding is, you have heard this term overriding the CD, overriding certain content in certain files and all. So what does overriding do? If I have this file named A, and if this file A has, let us say, a.img. Now if I am overriding this a.img, if I'm overriding this a.img, let us say with new a.img, in this earlier a.img, if there is a picture of donkey, and here if it's a picture of dog, what happens with overriding is this picture of donkey will be eliminated or erased from here, and in this file named A, after overriding you in with the name a.amg, now you will find the picture of the dog. That means erasing the content, previous content, and overriding it with new content. That is called as overriding. Now what is the difference? Overloading is possible within a class. Okay, overriding is possible within a class. Overriding we do between the class, between the methods, between the overloading methods within the classes. Here methods between the classes, and for this we have to do inheritance. How? I'll show you later. That is your methods overriding. Okay, now with overloading there is one more thing. Okay, with overloading there is one more thing. In any OOP, okay, in any OOP method overloading, okay, in any OOP based language, overloading is of two types. Okay, I told you in the beginning when I was teaching you overloading. Overloading is of two types. One is your method overloading. Another is your operator overloading. Okay, in Java, Okay, in any OP language, there are two types of overloading: method overloading and operator overloading. In Java, Java supports method overloading, but Java does not do operator overloading. There is only one operator in Java that gets by default overloaded, and that is the plus sign. It is used for addition and it is used for assigning the values. This is the only operator that is being overloaded, that can be overloaded, that is by default overloaded in Java. But other than Java, in other programming languages, OOP based programming languages, we can also perform operator overloading, where we can perform various types of overloading in such types of operators, but that we don't do in Java. Okay, so that is the difference between overloading in Java and overloading in other OOP. Okay, so if this basic concept is clear, what is overriding and all, write in the chat box clear, so that I can start with the coding. Okay, so that I can explain overriding with the help of a program. If it's clear, quickly write in the chat box, class. It's clear. Okay, Anita, I think clear. Okay, so let's perform method overriding. Okay, method overriding. Let's study that with the help of a program. Okay, so let me create a class named super. Okay, I've created a class named super. I have integer x here. Okay, so with this, call the constructor, initialize this one, integer x. Okay, so now class, I'm going to introduce one more interesting fact in Java that you can do. Okay, one more keyword. Okay, that we are going to, just before this one, I taught you overriding. Okay, sorry, yes, क्या पढ़ाया था इससे पहले? Different types of inheritance. Okay, so with inheritance, so far what we have been doing is, after we declare any variables here, we initialize this variable in the constructor. We have to, right, in Java. But for initialization, we needed again a different set of variables here. For example, if I had integer length here, I would do integer x. Okay, and then here I would do length is equals to x, initialization. But in that case, what happens is we need a lot of variable names in complex projects. Sometimes, how do we name the variables? With their purpose. If you are doing addition of certain numbers, you do a1, a2, a3, add, sum, like this. But if we need for initialization a set of numbers, here again a set of numbers, then we may run out of related variable names, and then we may have to choose random variables. Basically, if we are doing a long lines of code based program, 1000, 1500, then we may have to scroll up again, what was the name of the variable, this and that. So to avoid these chores, what is done in Java is one keyword is used. The name of the keyword is this का मतलब है to point, right? ये, this one. That means like pointing to myself. In English, where do we use this? To point at a thing, to point at an object. So similarly, to point at that same object, we use this keyword in Java, so that we can point to that same variable like this, to save the numbers, declaration of numbers of variables. So what happens in this one is, basically this variable object is pointing at itself, like length equals to x. X is being pointed to length, okay, with two different names, but basically what is being in x is being stored in the length. So instead of doing that, x is pointed to x, so that x में वही store हो जाए. You can use the self pointing with the keyword this. Okay, so with this I'm moving forward now. If you are confused with this keyword, you can unmute your mic and you can ask me. Okay, till then I'm proceeding. So I've created a constructor to read a variable with, I've introduced a new, let me use for this one a different color, because this is new for you. This dot x is equals to x. Okay. Okay. So now what do? I write the main method to display the content. So I have now outer println super. Super here means the super class. Okay, yes, the parent class is also called as the super class. The child class is also called as the subclass. So for parent, what all name do we have? Super class, parent class, and क्या था एक और था parent super, what did I use, base class. For child class we can use child class, sub class. Okay, super का opposite होता है sub class. So for derived class we call it as derived, child and sub class. Okay, super means the super class, the parent class. The value of super, the value of x in super class, let us say, is equals to x. Here actually I wanted to write down equals to the value of x, because we want to perform overriding, so we want to see whether the value of x in superclass is printed or the subclass. Okay, so let me write down the value of x in superclass is equals to plus. Okay, is equals to plus. I want to save my space, so let me do enter here so that I can use this part for a different code. Okay, so now I have closed this main method here. To save my space, I've done like this. Okay, so yes, super is equals to x. Okay, so now let us perform method overriding. Okay, so now let us perform method overriding. So I have now here inheritance. Okay, so now class, now let us say subclass. Now we cannot use class, so let us say class sub now. Okay, so now I have here integer y. I've declared a variable simple. Okay, so I have here the constructor sub. I'm doing integer x, integer y. Okay, so now I already know super. I can do, I've taught you in the previous topic. I've done super x. So this, oh sorry, I forgot. Extends super. So I've declared one more class where I performed inheritance. In this subclass, I've inherited the property of superclass where I've already declared the variable x. And here I needed one more variable, so I've declared only that variable. So with this constructor in the current class, I've mentioned that I need both of them in this method, okay, the special method sub. However, because for this, the declaration has already been done. So with the super, this super keyword has the starting letter as small s. This is not the super class. This super class is s capital. So this is the super method. ये कीवर्ड है, तो s इसका small letter है. Okay, so with super x we have already seen in our previous examples. I've included this x here. Okay, but y has to be initialized, so let us use that same keyword, this dot y equals to y. Let's close it. Okay, let's close it. So now let us do void display class. Now pay attention here. I think I should have used same color for both of them, but okay, I've missed it already. I can't do anything with this one. See here now. Void display, this is one single program. ये दोनों एक ही program है. Okay, so if it was not inheritance, then void display here would have give you code ambiguity. आपका program में it would have given you error if you will not do extend super. If in the same program you will use method with the same name in two entirely different classes, then when you execute this program, not compile, when you will execute this program, it will give you code ambiguity because it has two methods with the same name. But here, because you have performed inheritance, when you use two different methods with the same name, it will not give you any error. It will understand method overriding is being performed. So now when I do in this subclass, when I do in this child class, when I declare that same method name, now whatever is the content of this method, here I'm printing the value of x. So here if you'll assign to x value 2, so here if I'll assign 3, now this 2 will not be displayed to the user. This will be erased, and this new value of 2 which you have overridden with 3 will be shown here. That means this total method from your previous class, from your parent class, will be overridden with this new method void display. Okay, so let's do that. System.out.println. Still, if you have any confusion, you may ask now. Okay, so here if you see here, the value of x in subclass is, okay, I need to complete double quotes here, is equals to, complete the double quote, plus x. The value of y in subclass is y. Here I've declared y. Okay, so I close it now. So now with this one, initially if I'll give here 2, okay, this will not be printed at all. Why? Because you have overridden this entire display. If it was a regular code, you would have got the value for this one 2 also printed, but now you have overridden this method display. So now if you will assign here 3, then 3 will be printed, and whatever is the new value of y, that will be printed here. Okay, it will get overridden entirely. So we are done. Again, I missed a code brace here because class is getting closed. Okay, so let us use now. I have the parent class, I have the super class, I have that same method here, I have that same method being overridden in the subclass. This is my super class, this is my subclass. In the subclass, I have overridden the method in the parent class. I'm going very slow so that you can grasp every bit of details. Okay, so now let us execute this program. How do we execute? For that we need the main function. So let's start writing the execution part. Okay, so I have here class sample static void main string mts. Okay, so what do I do next? Next, I create the object. Okay, so now class, you need to pay attention here that when I create an object here, if you will create an object in the overriding, in the inheritance, okay, if you will create an object of the parent here, see here, if you create an object of super, then you cannot execute this one. Why? Because super cannot see what is inside of sub. Okay, because super has not extended the property of sub. Sub has extended the property of super. So you need to pay attention when you create an object. Sub can see everything inside here, X it can see, but super cannot see Y. So if I'll create super S1, that means super object 1, then I cannot execute Y. But if I'll do sub object 1, then I can execute this X and I can execute this X and Y of here, because this can go inside here and see it. Okay, so when in the object creation, remember that. Okay, so let me write down, let me create an object. It takes two values, so I do here 100, 300. Okay, so what do? I have only one method, so I execute s1 dot display. Now s1 dot display gets executed. So this is the end. The main function gets closed, the class gets closed. In the main function, I've only created an object and executed this method. So when S1, if you recall that previous program, we had only one constructor. Okay, उसमें मैंने 3 वैल्यू डाला था. पहले वाले में 2 था, length and breadth. Here I had 3, length, breadth and height. The length and breadth, here I had given 3 values, but out of the 3, the first 2 were given to the first class, and the length and breadth of the box class was executed, and then length, breadth and height of the second class was executed, because there we didn't do overriding. But because here we did overriding from these 2, the first value 100 will never reach here. This part of the code will not execute, only this part of the code will execute, and the output that you will get is the output that you will get here is the value of x in subclass is 100. Okay, the value of y in subclass is 300. This is the output that you will be getting now. If you recall, in previous example, we also got the output from here. Length and breadth ka multiply karke. I think it was 100 into 116 or 16, something like that. 160 I had written. And from here, okay, length, breadth and width for the cube was also given, for which I had taken one random value of 2000. But in this case, only this is getting executed. What does that mean? When we did this and this one, that means this void display has overridden the content of this void display here. I hope now overriding method is clear. So is it clear, or do you have any doubts from here? Ramri, ऑब्जेक्ट S1 यूज करके सुपर क्लास का कंस्ट्रक्टर कॉल कर सकते हैं. ऑब्जेक्ट S1 यूज करके सुपर क्लास कौन सा? S1 क्या है? S1 सब S1 कहाँ का है? सब का है. आप क्या बोल रहे थे? कौन सा क्लास? सुपर क्लास इसका कंस्ट्रक्टर. नो, आई थिंक राम आई हैव ऑलरेडी मेंशन्ड. सॉरी, यस सॉरी, यस, इसका आपने सब मेंशन किया है ना, object S1 use करके. Yes, Ram, but you need to pay. In this case, yes, you can call this super. Okay, you can call this, but अगर ये सब ना होके अगर आपने ये कंस्ट्रक्टर सिर्फ फिर सुपर का बना, in this case your the answer to the question is yes. With S1 you can call this constructor. Okay, but अगर वो ना करके आपने यहाँ पे सुपर का बनाया ऑब्जेक्ट, सुपर S1 बनाया, फिर उस S1 से इसको सब को कॉल किया, तब नहीं होगा. ओके, दिस वन yes, but if we will change the situation, ऑब्जेक्ट इसका बनाया, और इसको कॉल करने गए तब नहीं होगा. Why? Because this has not inherited the property of this one. That means this content, this sub is not visible to super. So in that case, no. But in this case, yes. Why? Because this s1 sub s sub तो ये है, सब ने सुपर को एक्सटेंड किया है. दैट मीन्स सब कैन सी सुपर, सब कैन एक्सेस सुपर. सो यस, विद दिस वन वी कैन एक्सेस सुपर. उल्टा नहीं होगा. ओके Ram, is it clear? Ramre, is it clear? Okay. So everyone, is method overriding clear, or do you have any doubts? Class, if it's clear, please write down clear, or if you have any doubts, please write in the chat box here. Thank you, Rajesh. Apart from a few, like many a time Subhash and most of the time Ram, I don't get questions from others. That means you're not participating and you're not paying attention. क्योंकि अगर आप कर रहे हो, सुन रहे हो, you are doing homework at home, you're executing the program, then you'll come up with the questions, you'll have queries. If you are having, if you are clear with every topic that I'm teaching, that means you're not able to follow up. तो थोड़ा follow up करो. It will be difficult for you while doing your project in the 5th semester. You will not understand any code then it will be difficult. Ma'am, we are having difficult with this line, it is giving errors. So stupid errors are given and students yet cannot identify and resolve that error. So please execute this code, participate in the lecture. Okay, so now it's clear. But I was hoping that at least one of you will ask that question, but none of you did. Okay, in some of the batches, students have asked me that question. Okay, but not from this batch. Okay, anyway. So now the question that should have popped up in your head when I mentioned you this is, जो क्वेश्चन आपकी, अगर आपने इसको अच्छे से समझा होता तो आपके दिमाग में ये क्वेश्चन आना चाहिए था, मैम, what if we want to display the content of this display as well? मैम, अभी तो हम सिर्फ ये डिस्प्ले करा रहे हैं, लेकिन अगर मेरा प्रोजेक्ट का डिमांड हुआ कि मुझे ये भी डिस्प्ले करवाना है, then what should I do? For example, consider the situation wherein you are trying to change the ATM pin. You're trying to change the ATM pin or some password. So what happens when you try to change the pin or password? First, they ask you your previous password, confirm your previous password, and then set new password. Okay, so that means even this is getting, the previous is getting executed in that case. Because if you're asking previous, that value will go here, compare, get compared. If it is right, then only it will get executed. So if you're developing such type of project wherein you need to execute the previous, how will you do it? That question should have popped up. थोड़ा सा disappointed हो गई, but it's okay. In that case, you need not do anything. You use a simple, you do a simple thing like this. What is that? In this second void display, that means when you are rewriting this code, when you are overriding this method, जब आप इसको override करने के लिए ready हो गए, इसका block खुल गया, right after this one, and before you perform overriding, here this is where you are performing overriding, right? So before you do this, what you can do is, here you simply call the keyword super. ये जो keyword super मैंने आपको पढ़ाया था, this one, you call this keyword super, you write down dot, okay, you write down dot super dot and this display. So now if you will do this, super dot display, now even this part of the code will get executed here because you have SOP. This one will also give you the output, and then this one will get also executed. But remember, This super dot display must come before any lines of code of this new display. अगर आपने इसको यहाँ पे डाला, then it will not be displayed. Why? Because you have already performed overriding here. But before you perform overriding, then only you must do this. So after you do this, even this previous display will get executed, and here you will get output का line क्या था? The value of x in superclass is. So the value of x in superclass is ये पहला वाला 100 because this is your x. Okay. तो अब आपको overriding करना है, not with the constructor, because if you do constructor, again this is compile time and that same value will be used. Now you will perform overriding with the help of, yeah, not with special methods, but you will do with methods only. But before I give you the aim, is it clear the new thing that I've taught you, how to display the overrided value? Class, is it clear? Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Chandni. Thank you, Shivam. Okay, I've got 3 S's, so I will proceed. Okay. So now, hoping you have already taken the screenshot of this one. Let me give you the aim. Write a Java program to manage the inventory system of uh, a stationary stationary, pardon me with my spelling. Write a Java program to manage the inventory of a stationery shop using or implementing the concept of method overriding. So this is your next aim for the lab. Is it done, class? Have you taken the screenshot? Yes. Write in the chat box if yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Subhash. Okay, thank you, Rashmi. So let's move ahead. Okay. Okay, so now I have remaining with three small topic. Okay, three small topic. It's 2:31 in my clock. Okay, so I'll take 4 minutes break. Okay, 3 minutes break. We'll be back at 2:35. Okay, then I'll teach you three smaller topic. Okay, class, is everyone back? Can I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Shubhangi. Thank you. Okay, everyone. So now we are going to study now three smaller topic. Okay, so far what we have studied is, okay, what we have studied is overriding. Okay, before this we studied inheritance. We studied there are four types of inheritance, out of which three can be directly implemented in Java. To implement one inheritance, we have a specific way to do it, that is with the help of interface, that we will study in the next lecture. Okay, and then we studied overriding. We studied overriding of, is done with the help of inheritance, but to override we needed a keyword super, and we learned about it. Okay, and in the meantime we since constructor we have been using multiple variables to initialize an object. So instead of making one object point to the another length, what we did is with the help of keyword this we studied, we can do the self initialization. Okay, so what happens is this dot x object will now point to x only with the help of this. अब x ही को point कर रहा है, we do not need this length now. Okay, or if you want to use length, then you can have this length point to length only. It is like self. Okay, so we learned today various important things. Okay, this one, and then we learned the super keyword, we learned this keyword. Okay, I think these are the topic that we have learned. Okay, I've given you labs, तीन चार lab program भी हो गए, and then I've assigned you 4 lab programs to execute. Okay, so now let us study two smaller topic now. Now the keyword final. Okay, so now the few smaller topic that I'm going to teach. Now for every single topic with it small, like for string, first how to parse variables. For every smaller topic I have written a program, and आपको हर चीज के लिए program देके explain किया है. For now this one, okay, even for private, public, protected, default, for everything program is given. But now for these three smaller topic that I'm going to teach you, okay, you will use it in your existing programs. आप जब program लिखोगे, इसके लिए मुझे अलग से program लिखने की, जैसे this के लिए I need not write a different program. For super I need not write a different program. I embedded this keyword and super keyword in your inheritance only, overriding only. Okay, so you will include this in one of the aims that has already been given, and when I'll be checking your lab files, I will see if you have used all this or not. Okay, so you have to use all this by yourself. So I'll just teach you what is it and their syntax. Okay, so the first keyword that we are going to use is final. The keyword final. Okay, so now this keyword final is, you can say, it is an opposite of what you can say, we can say that dynamic. Like for if you have like a variable integer x, okay, you can say this is like a dynamic variable. Right now you can assign to x2, and after some part of your code later on you can reassign this or override this with x. You felt no, I want to again override it with 6. So you can constantly keep updating or overriding its value. Okay, but what final does is it stops you from doing that. That means it we can say prevents subclass. Let us say it prevents subclass from overriding. It prevents subclass from overriding. Okay, now It prevents subclass from overriding. So let us say how does that happen. So now I have, let us say, class A. In this class A, let us say you have integer x and void display, like your previous example. Okay, like you have a method display, void display. Now I'm not going to write the entire code. You can just imagine it in the previous codes. Okay. Now, what happens in overriding is you override this variable and you override this method. So what can you do with final is you can stop from overriding. If you do not let, like your ATM pin, you have declared it in your parent class, super class. Now you cannot let that ATM pin being overridden by another method or another class. You cannot allow that. So what you can do is in this integer x, you can declare it as final integer x. So now let us say to integer x, if you have assigned 2. Now if a new class comes, let us say class B. In this class B, you have performed, let us say, inheritance, extends A. So now in this x, you have now done final x, final integer x you have done. So if you'll do here again integer x, if you'll call with super, let us say super dot x you did, but to this as super dot x you did 3. Now this will give you error. Why? You have said this is the final value. You cannot update its value, so it will give you an error. So when you declare anything as final, that means it is final. You cannot make any changes to it. Okay, you can also do that in the methods. Void display ahead of void display, if you do final void display, that means you cannot make any changes or you cannot do overriding of this x. You cannot do overriding of the methods. In Java, over and over again, I have been mentioning there are 2 types of members in Java. 2 types of members that are block of code forms. Like in a class, we have 2 members. One is your variable, another is your method. We always talk about either method or variable. Okay, so you can declare final, a variable as final, you can declare a method as final. Whatever you declare final, that becomes a final value, and you're stopping from overriding being happened. That means no overriding is possible to any variables or methods that is declared as final. Is it clear? The keyword final. You use it in inheritance. If you declare any variable or method as final, that means you cannot perform overriding of those variables or methods. Is it clear, class? Okay. So next keyword is your finalizer. Okay. Before I tell you finalizer, let us talk about constructor. Okay, so we have constructor. Take any other programming language, whichever programming language has considers the constructor in it. कोई भी programming language में अगर constructor है, then they have the opposite of it called as destructor. Destructor. In any programming language, if you find constructor, for example, like C++, they have constructor, they also have destructor, every programming language. But in Java, we have constructor, we do not have destructor. Why? Because any other programming language other than Java, they do not have automatic garbage collection. Okay, they do not free the objects, the memory allocated to the objects. They do not do that. Okay, variables, whatever memory is occupied by them, the variables, methods, the objects, it is not cleared by the programming language. That's why the garbage values are being shown in many programming language. But in Java, garbage values are not shown. Why? Because the Java performs automatic garbage collection. It clears all the memory location. Okay, so that's why we do not have constructor in Java, but we have this. Sorry, we do not have destructor in Java. Now, what does constructor do? We know that we have been discussing it. It performs initialization. It performs automatic initialization of every objects the moment it is created. How? If an object ob1 is to be created, what do we write? Class name obj object name equals to new, the class name the constructor. So जैसे ही constructor बना, object initialize हुआ. Okay, so sometimes what happens is when an object is being declared, okay, वो खुद से initialize होता है. तो क्या होता है कि sometimes even though Java performs a runtime automatic garbage collecting system, Java automatically frees all the memory resources used by the object. Okay, but what happens is there are various objects. Okay, sometimes they hold non-object resources. For example, Java, everything is object, but let us say obj1 now. Okay, it is locating to this location. But this location now holds, let us say, a non-object based resource like a file. It is image, an entire document like Word file, this and that. So that is not an object for Java. So because Java performs automatic garbage collection of all the objects, the object होता तो automatic clear हो जाता ये memory location. But because this is a non-object based file, so this does not get cleared by Java itself. So now this memory location of your computer's RAM is being occupied. So garbage is there. So what do we do is Java supports a form of destructor, a method that implements or that takes the job of clearing non-object based file. Okay. So what is the name of that method? The name of that method is finalize. If you have a class here, like let us say every time when I have to create the main method wala class ko I always give the name sample. Okay, so now, and why am I using this, telling you this is because we create an object of any class in the class that has main function. So I have here main function, I have here let us say object1, object2, like that. So at the end of this one, what do? We close the main, we close the class. So before this happens, before this closure of the main function happens, you write this finalize method here. Okay, so after everything is being executed, every lines of code is being executed, and before your program ends, it will execute this finalize method. That means whatever memory is being allocated by the objects which holds non-object based resources, with this finalize method, this location will also be cleared and free to be used for some other object or for some other purpose. Okay, so is it clear? Finalize. Class, is it clear? Finalize. Okay. Okay, thank you everyone for your prompt reply. So next is the concept of all these three you will have to use in your program. Okay, so we have something called as methods with VARA. Okay, so VAR, variable. See here, variable, it is one word, but it comprises of two words. Variable arguments. We call it varags. Methods with varags. We call it varags. It includes two words, variable arguments. What happens here? It's a very simple technique to implement a complex or a redundant idea. If you have a redundant idea, we can implement with methods. For example, in overloading, what did I tell you as? We can perform overriding with the number of arguments. Okay, for example, if you had void get display, okay, or let us say void add, it takes, in that case, it will take values void add. Let us say void add takes integer a, integer b, it adds 4 number, integer c, integer d. Don't you think this is a redundant information? Because all of them are integer, yet we are writing integer, 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 integer again. It is like being fool, or be like, it is like acting stupid. We know it's the same thing, yet we are writing over and over again, like SOP, system out dot println, you want to print 1, system out dot println, you want to print 2, and if you want to print till 100, you are writing SOP. Instead of that, just run a for loop, right? Be smart. So to resolve this, or to eliminate this redundant writing, Java supports the concept of varargs. Now, this is only possible if the argument type in the method is same, integer, integer, integer. If it's float, then you cannot do it. Okay, so what is the syntax? It's simple. You write down void, you write down add, you write down the data type name, integer, you write down 3 exact dots, 1, 2, 3, and then you write down a now. Done. So now this a can take as many arguments as you want. So here you are taking 4, so now it can take 4. So how does it run in the background? Actually, in the background, a is declared now as an array of integer. So earlier you had 4 values type integer. Now also you have 4 value of type integer. Now it is simply an array. Okay. Similarly, you can do it for string. Again, 3 dots, 1, 2, 3. Let us say person. Okay, person. Now before this one, what you are doing, let us say if it was string in this method, what you are doing is, let us say string, you are taking name, string, you are taking employee ID, string, address, string, designation. It would be a long line. Instead, simply do string. This is all a person's detail, write down person. So again, in the background, it will be a string of array. String of array. So here you insert the details name. Okay, person में person का एक array बन गया. So here name is like Lekhika. Next was employee ID 2001. Next is my address. Address is my Gantok. Next is my designation, assistant professor. So I'm done. Okay. So this is called as varargs, variable length argument. When there is an argument with variable lengths, then we can use this concept of 3 dots. Is it clear? Varargs. Again, you'll have to implement it in your code. Class, is it clear? मैम इसको कॉल कैसे करेंगे? Just like any other methods. Just like any, आप इस ऐड को कैसे कॉल करते हो? इस ऐड को आप पहले क्लास का नाम, suppose I have a class named A. So you create an object. A is equals to new A. Okay. So this is my object name. So A dot add. If it's a compile time, you write my name here, you write my employee ID here, you write my address here, you write my designation here. If it is a runtime, then you will show here, यहाँ पे जो SOP होगा आपका, SOP में enter the details of a person. Enter the details of a person. Then you will see here, or अगर आपको मेंशन करना है क्या क्या डिटेल्स, एंटर योर नेम, योर डेजिग्नेशन, योर आईडी। एसओपी में यहाँ ऑलरेडी लिखा होगा ऐड फंक्शन के अंदर। सो व्हेन यू विल रन a.add इन यूजर्स कमांड प्रॉम्प्ट, यूजर के कमांड प्रॉम्प्ट में एसओपी में जो लिखा होगा एंटर योर डिटेल्स, तो ये डिस्प्ले करेगा एंटर योर डिटेल्स। So you can enter name, falana, dimkana, everything like this. Simple. Okay. So just create it now, just like the way we call every method. जैसे हम हर मेथड को बुलाते हैं वैसे ही बुलाना है उसको. Ram, is it clear? Okay. Any doubts? If it's clear, write down clear, everyone. Shivangi is clear, Ram is clear, others? Subhash is clear, okay. Okay, Shubham, it seems Shubham joined and he left. Sorry, Shubham बोल रही हूँ मैं, Shivam, हाँ Shivam. Okay, Shivam clear. Okay, everyone. So class, do you have the capacity to study one more topic or should we stop here? एक छोटा सा टॉपिक है, वो probably आपका 7-8 मिनट तो लेगा. Let's say 10 minutes. So can you take that or should I stop here? If stop, write down in the chat box stop. If I can continue for the next 10 minutes, you can write down continue. Subha, stop. Okay, at least I need 3 stop. Okay, and continue also 3 continue. Okay, so everybody wants me to stop. So this is it for today. Okay, so next class is probably on Tuesday or Monday. जब भी होगा, we'll do it. Okay. So can you do an extra class tomorrow? अभी लिख दो. Tomorrow is Sunday. कल Sunday है. अगर आप extra class कर पाओगे तो write down yes. अगर नहीं तो without any hesitation you can write down no ma'am. कल Sunday है, Sunday तो छुट्टी ही होना चाहिए. इसलिए मैं पूछ रही हूँ क्या मैं extra class ले सकती हूँ कल? Yes or no? अगर yes तो write down yes. Shivam will coordinate with you for the timings. Rajesh, no ma'am, got some work to do. Okay, others? No ma'am. Okay. Okay, then thank you everyone. See you on Monday then. Take care and enjoy your weekend. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you everyone.